to Knoxville, don't be late. Baker's Live, it's gonna be great. June 5th and 6th, mark your date at Dollywood, we'll celebrate. Meet Baker and more cool friends, live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. Rides, fun, and meet and greet. Baker and pals, the crew's so sweet. Get ready for laughs, cheers, and thrills. Knoxville's the place, it's giving chills. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. June 5th and 6th, don't miss the fun. Meet Baker and friends, it's second to none. Baker and friends, it's second to
Welcome back, everyone, and not too many spoilers, but things got a little spicy, y'all. Please, if you have been watching it or if you have been following on the Twits, don't spoil the fun for the people who did like me and had something to eat, meditated by watching Clara Tauson win over the world #1 in tennis, and only got a few updates from the wonderful Jemima. I don't think we're going to see much court today, but what I'm going to show you could be interesting. Let's just say that. I think I said when Harry asked me Monday when I was on Alles nur geklaut, how I would describe this case. It's the twist and turn case. I think, yeah. Blazy said earlier in the chat that we missed something this morning. Yes, we did, because I didn't want to sit here and just ramble for 2 hours not knowing when they came back. So the second I turned off the stream, I saw the judge walk back into the courtroom. But he's not going to last for that long. Let's get to it and do it as they say in French.
For your patience, I just had to take up some legal issues with the attorneys. Y'all are going to get your steps in today. Please proceed. Yes.
So, Zach, you testified about information
You're not here.
that John has provided you related to concerns he had about Christina Parcell, especially in conjunction with Aida Mello. we talked about the time period April. I want to move to May. In May of 2021, were you and John Mello continuing to communicate about the situation?
Yes.
In May of 2021, what, if anything, did John ask you to do for him?
Given the extremely grave nature of John's concerns for his daughter, especially while she was in the custody of her mother, Christina Parcell, and potentially being exposed to her mother's boyfriend, Brad Post, who John believed was a pedophile and is a pedophile.
Objection.
Sustained. I instruct you to totally disregard the last comments made by this defendant.
And Zach, you would just
Did we all listen?
Especially while she was in the custody of her mother, Christina Parcell, and potentially being exposed to her mother's boyfriend, Brad Post, who John believed was a pedophile and is a pedophile.
objection.
Sustained.
So that got in. Who he believed and who is. But of course, there's an objection.
I instruct you to totally disregard the last comments made by this defendant.
And Zach, you would just could you just tell this jury what John asked you to do?
Yes. Given his concerns, John asked me that if I believed his daughter was in grave danger, would I be willing to kill Christina Parcell for $5,000?
What did you say when he asked you that?
I was shocked and insulted by the request, and I gave him an immediate and unequivocal no.
So he offered you $5,000 if you would kill Christina Parcell, and you said no.
That's correct.
At some point, did he revisit that subject?
Yes.
Did he make you another offer?
Yes, he did.
How long after the first offer did he make the second offer?
I'm not certain, but I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks later.
Tell this jury about that.
He was becoming increasingly more worried and distressed about the safety of his daughter. I was as well. The more I learned about this situation and everything, and a lot more than what I've told you, I was also.
Sustained.
Another objection. Sometimes trials go from what the F is going on to oh.
What was the second offer?
The second offer, he asked me again, if I became convinced that his daughter was in danger, would I be willing to kill Christina Parcell for $10,000?
What did you, or how did you respond to that offer?
I told him, John, there's no amount of money that would ever tempt me to do something like this. And I told him I was insulted that he even thought that would be something I would consider. So I told him I would never do something like this for money. I told him the only way I would ever consider taking action like this is if I was absolutely convinced that his daughter was not only in danger, but that the only way to rescue her from that danger would be to take Christina Parcell's life.
Let's talk about what else is going on in your life in May of 2021. Tell this jury what you're doing with the music project with Tom Strange, how that's
Kind of weird shift. Oh, you just said you were going on Alive a Woman. Can we talk about music?
We've been at the project recording the sonatas in the museum, like I talked about, for about 5 months. This, of course, I was doing in conjunction with all the help I was trying to provide John and Aida. So the music project on its own would have been incredibly stressful. And with everything else, I was just approaching burnout. Honestly, I was having a really hard time meeting my deadlines, and I was worried that the quality of the work I was doing was going to be going down, and I was just at the point where I needed a vacation, honestly.
And we're going to get to that in just a second. Tell the jury about your compensation as it relates to the music project with Tom Strange.
It was just an arrangement of a flat fee for all 32 sonatas. I was going to receive $5,000.
And if you broke that down on an hourly basis, how much were you getting paid per hour?
So you get the same for playing 32 pieces of music as for unaliving an ex-wife? And you have to practice for those 32 concerts? And you probably have to pay taxes on the flat fee, whereas you can keep all the money for. Well, I'm looking at plane tickets. They are expensive, so I'm not saying I can do some business while I'm in the U.S. because I'm on a tourist visa, but still. Just saying.
Probably less than $1, but it was a labor of love.
During this time, were you also doing other things to try to make money to support yourself, or was it?
Yes, I was giving some outdoor concerts on the Wind's lawn, and these were donation-based, so people were supporting me financially in that regard.
You talked about needing a vacation at the end of May. Describe a little bit more to the jury
Griff needs
the
a grift.
fatigue and why you believed at the end of May that a break would do you some good.
Well, I needed a break. My nature is usually to just try to push through stuff like that. I can push myself too far. So I was not necessarily seeking out a break or a vacation, but I was definitely at the point where I needed one for the sake of my work, for the sake of my health.
Did you get that break?
Yes, I did.
Describe for the jury how that came about.
Like I said, John and I were communicating pretty much every day at this point.
I wasn't gonna do prostitution. It was the other job offer.
Much of
But I am flattered that you thought anyone would pay me 5,000.
it, if not most of it, about Aida. But I was also mentioning to him what I was doing. Certainly times when he needed me to do something, and I would have to say I can't. I'm practicing. I'm recording something like this. So he told me. I think he said, like in the rock and roll business, we say you have a monkey on your back. Like the project is starting to own you, and you just need to step away from it. You're too close to it, and you've been in it for too long. So he suggested that I come and visit him in Italy.
Did you take him up on that suggestion?
Yes, I did.
Initially, what was your reaction to that offer?
Initially, I didn't want to. Like I said, it's my nature to just kind of push through things. But with some more time, I realized that some time off from the piano would probably do me good.
So when did you go to Italy to visit John?
I think in either the very last days of May or first days of June, 2021.
Who paid for your travel?
I did.
When you arrived in Italy, where did you stay?
I stayed at John Mell's apartment.
How long were you there?
Between 3 and 4 weeks.
Do you remember where in Italy you were?
Yes, it was a town called Rovigo. It's not too far from Venice.
When you were visiting in Italy, where was Aida Mello?
She was in Greenville with her mother.
Even though Aida was not in Italy, while you were in Italy, did you have an opportunity to see Aida?
Yes, I did.
Describe for the jury what that opportunity was.
John had video visits ordered by the guardian ad litem, who you've seen before, Vanessa Cornwell, to have video visits twice a week with Aida. So he, even with the time difference, was always setting timers and alarms and making me set timers and alarms to make sure he wouldn't be late for these visits. Like he lived for these visits every week. So often it might be 11 p.m. or midnight in Italy, but that was when Aida was free, so that's when they'd have their...
Well, I'm flying 7,000 miles to hopefully meet some of you.
Visit, and I would often be within earshot to where I could hear the conversation. Often I would be able to observe the screen of his phone or computer, so I could see Aida's face, her disposition. And on one occasion, I said hi to her.
What did you notice about her, or what did you conclude about her while you were watching Aida during these visitations?
So, John had been telling me for weeks, Zach,
You missed where he said that the fiance was a PDF file, and you missed that he was offered first 5 and then 10K to unalive her, and said, "I would never do that unless I believe it would save the girl."
Christina's killing my little girl. Like, I can see the spark dying in her eyes. And again, when I first heard that, I thought, aren't you being a little dramatic? Like, I hadn't seen her, but it just seemed a bit much. When I saw her in these visits, I didn't feel that way anymore. She was not the same little girl that I had known in Greenville when I first met them. She had put on a great deal of weight, probably about 20 pounds, which is roughly a quarter of her body weight. For an 8-year-old girl, that's a lot in a short period of time, but it was much more than that. It was her demeanor. Her spirit was just, she was morose, she was depressed. Like that spunky, precocious, lively little girl that I had met was just not present there. It was a complete change in character. And I mean, John would ask her how she was doing, and she would always try to give a good response. Like, she would try to smile and say, "Oh, I'm fine, Daddy," and try to put on a good face. But it was clear that she was doing that because she didn't want to worry her dad. She didn't want him to realize how poorly she was doing, and it just reminded me so much of myself when I was a little older than she was, with what I've previously described with Grace. It's this, you internalize things. Like, she's a strong person, and she was trying to be stronger than she was probably ready to be at that age. And despite the stoic, strong exterior she was trying to put on, I could just see that she was being tortured. Like, she was drowning. And him saying that the spark was dying in her eyes was absolutely accurate. I could see it, I could hear it in her voice, I could tell it in her demeanor.
So, when you came, let me back up. When did you leave Italy to return to Greenville County?
At the end of June 2021.
When you returned to Greenville in June of 2021, based on everything that you knew and had been made aware of, and I want to start in June. What, if anything, in June of 2021 did you do to act on what you knew?
I had described the mailers that I had put together before, and the state has talked about them a lot. All of these mailers contained information that I believe had been put out publicly and by Christina Parcel's free will. So this was all information that had been available publicly, and that, to the best of my knowledge, was true. And I began to send these mailers to Christina Parcel and her boyfriend and people in the neighborhood for a threefold purpose. I wanted parents around that neighborhood to know that their children were not safe around her or around Red Post. I wanted different people associated with this, such as the guardian ad litem, the police, to have access to this information, so that they would have all the evidence that I was looking at that clearly demonstrated.
The kid was in the U.S. He was in Italy and was watching video conversations with the kid, is what he's claiming.
That Christina Parcel was a danger to children and her own daughter. And I also wanted there to be social pressure on...
No. We are way behind, but he just blurted out that Mr. Post was a PDF file.
Christina Parcel, because something, again, about people like Grace and Christina Parcel is the facade that they erect around themselves, and the image that they put forward to the world is so important to them. They're narcissists. And it is a facade, it's completely untrue, but I was hoping that it wouldn't be worth it to her for other people to see her for what she was in exchange for her trying to fight to have her daughter.
You sent multiple mailers beginning in June and going into July of 2021, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Did those mailers and the effect those mailers had do anything to alleviate your concern?
They both contacted The Guardian and Lightem and talked about this. And thank you so much, Kelly, for buying a corner kiss and saying, this case is going to drive me to drink. Please take a cup of coffee and don't, yeah. But thank you so much for the corner kiss. It is the Twisty Turny case.
No, they didn't. If anything, Christina Parcell and Brad Post just dug their heels in deeper.
After the mailers were sent, do you know whether or not they had any effect on? Back up. I want to talk about after the mailers were sent. Did you learn of a video call or about a video call that John, who was in Italy, had with Aida, who was in Greenville?
Yes.
What did you learn about that video call?
Shortly after these mailers would have arrived, John described a call to me.
Not quite. He changed it to, he wanted to do a defense called self-defense and defense of others. By that is, you walk into a house, you see a woman beating a man, and you have to unalive her to save the man. That's the defense he went with. The judge said, you can't do that because the girl wasn't at home. She was at school at the time. So it's not going to fly. And then they went up and I don't know where they're going to go now. And the opening statement from the defense was kind of like, well, he's going to tell you a story of why he had to do it. And he started this morning, and it was a long journey through his musical upbringing, and then we got into how he got to know Mello and Aida, and how intelligent the kid was, and then he talked about him having an adopted sister who was evil, and he could see the same in Christina, and a couple of times they tried to get it in there, and 10 minutes ago, he just blurted out that the fiance was a PDF file.
Where he said Christina was, at the end of the call, she took the phone and turned it towards her face, which she usually did not do. And he said she was more angry than I've ever seen her. And he would often talk about how you would never see her angry, like she was very good at controlling her emotions and not showing if you had made her angry. And she took the phone and didn't say anything, but just slid her finger across her throat as if that she was threatening that she was going to have him killed for what she believed he was doing.
After the mailer, or the last mailer, did John share with you any information he had received via email?
Yes, he didn't describe it. He sent it to me, an email he had received from someone he knew in the biker community, motorcycles. And Brad Post was also involved in the biker community, or at least tried to be. And this email was from this acquaintance of John, telling John that Brad Post had been going around essentially asking for someone to, quote, put the hurt on John Mello, and that he was offering a lot of money to make this happen.
That's hearsay. No, that's why I call it the twisty turny case, because we think it's going one way, and all of this cheese pizza is going to come in, and then the judge is fighting very hard to keep all of it out. Then we kind of get it in, but the judge says no. And then when the state ended, we said they really don't have much evidence and a good DNA defense. You can kind of get around this. And then he goes up there and admits he did it. And then he just blurted out, Mr. Post is a PDF file. And Christina Parcell was a crusty crude. It's a weird case. And it's not over yet. Let's just say that. Thank you so much, Paula B., for gifting 10 memberships. 1 to Farley and Nut Squirrel, Grinnin Garnett, Gracie, Leslie M., Angel Mama 0520, Cornelius Day, HT, Erica Thorpe, Liseka, I think so. Thank you so much, Paula B., and welcome all of you. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting me over 13,000 subscribers. You're more than welcome, more than kind, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Bring your friends. I know Jamie is, she's turned into a diva. She says, I won't show up on streams if you can't get us above 200 people watching every stream. I'll stay away till you hit 200. So please, if you know someone who like stupid commentary and weird court cases, tell them about us.
Zach, we talked about the fact that you testified that you sent the mailers, you've explained why. I want to talk about something else you did for the purpose of acting on a concern.
And again, thank you, Paula B. You are very, very, very kind today. Thank you so much. This time it went to Direxy, Legendary Racing. What's the matter? You are I'm not sure. Parabellum. That means prepare for war, I believe. Twisted Sifter. Denise Sells and Marianne, Kathy Trouts, Winks, and Too Surreal. Thank you so much, Paula B. Very, very kind of you. Yeah, you told me that you didn't want to come back until I got us steadily over 200 people. I can show the receipts when I sent you the invite and you said, who that?
Take a look at what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 47. Is that an affidavit that you completed for the purpose or in connection with the pending family court litigation between John Mello and Christina Parcell?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, this is defense counsel version. This is already in evidence. The state put that in. Zach, let's talk about this affidavit.
Is that the one from September?
Yes, Your Honor. Zach, why did you draft this affidavit?
I was extremely concerned about the danger that Aida was in, and I wanted to try to provide the family court with information about my opinion and my observations about her that would hopefully cause them to return Aida to John so that she would no longer be in danger.
Did this affidavit, well, let me back up. To whom did you send this affidavit?
I had it notarized, and then I think I scanned it and probably emailed it to John or left it with his family court attorney, Samantha Larkins, at the time.
As you just heard, they did try to communicate both with the guardian ad litem, court system, and police that they have these concerns. But the guardian ad litem, if you go back and watch, I believe that was day 2, she was one of those social workers, whatever it is, CPS workers. Well, she's a lawyer, but she's in the system. That, to me, it seemed like she was one of those. The mom's always right. It's just an angry dad who did this. They weren't allowed to ask her what they wanted to ask her on cross if she would have done the same thing if she knew what she knows today. They weren't allowed to ask that, but that lady was, she was horrendous. Her and the sister is the biggest icks I've gotten in this case. Even the PDF file didn't give me that much of an ick because he was just a PDF file. There, if people are saying, well, he comes off as a cold fish and he seems distant and stuff like that, go back and watch those two ladies. I would check their closets for skeletons.
One second.
We all do. Jamie's working. She needs to make that dollar reduce so she can come to Denmark and visit me.
Let's move on. So that affidavit was, I believe, September the 21st of 2021, is that correct?
I don't remember the date other than it being in September.
I'll show it to you.
That's why you should join
Yes,
the
the
Discord or
21st
follow
day
me
of
on
September,
TwitchSweat, even though
2021.
TwitchSweat is down right now for me.
And you testified that after you submitted that affidavit, that did not do anything to alleviate your concerns.
That's something YouTube make. If you have a personal account and then like I have my Broken Baker account, then it's a branded account. I don't know what the difference is other than we can't receive super chats. Because if I streamed on my own YouTube, I would it would be treated just like everyone else's. But a branded account is something they give you when you have more than one, I think.
That is correct.
Did you take another step to try to...
I'm not sure if they proved it, but yes, there was. No, the daughter reported that the sister took pictures of her when she left the shower, but they retracted that. They mentioned that during cross-examination, I believe.
act on your concerns, right?
Yes.
And did you take that step at the end of September or beginning of October?
Yes, I made a phone call to Child Protective Services, and I told them that I was a neighbor. So I told them that I had seen Aida being verbally and physically abused by her mother. And again, I made that up. That's not true. But I said it because I wanted to give Aida an opportunity to have FaceTime in person with an agent from DSS away from her mother, where she could tell them that her mother was sexually abusing her.
Objection, Your Honor.
Listen to the objection.
An agent from DSS away from her mother, where she could tell them that her mother was sexually abusing her.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You are to disregard the last comments from this witness.
Zach, let me ask this. You talked about Child Protective Services. Is that in South Carolina, is that called DSS?
I think they may be part of the same entity, I'm not sure.
And
No,
so
I don't think he
they
was
do
laughing. I
anything
thought
to
he was,
alleviate your
what the
concerns?
heck?
No,
Did that surprise you at all?
no.
In fact, you testified earlier about Virginia and Grace. Did you and your family have interaction with the DSS in Virginia?
Yes, we did.
over Grace?
Yes, when I discovered the journal I had mentioned before about Grace's plans to murder my family, we called DSS and asked for her to be taken out of the home. And they did this. And after a few weeks of hearing Grace's stories and lies, they took her side. They failed to recognize what they were dealing with her. And they tried to have my parents put in jail and the rest of me and my siblings put in foster care. And we eventually had to sue them, and it was about a 2-year-long court battle. And that left an indelible impression on me, just as to how even experts can be wrong sometimes. And when they are wrong, it's so dangerous because everyone believes them because they're the experts. But sometimes you know what you know, and you know it's true, and even if an expert might think differently, it doesn't mean they're right. And DSS did a lot of damage to my family in those 2 years.
So ultimately, Grace was removed from your family, is that correct?
Yes.
Your other Russian siblings were not, were they?
No.
This is the only way it could get in. They could either make him do it, or they could make the dad do it. Blurt it out. Jemima is sending me updates. I'm so sorry that we... well, it's a good thing that because we are 30 minutes behind court on the feed, so we'll probably catch up when more spiciness occurs.
In fact, Faith, one of your Russian siblings, has been in court all week, is that correct?
Yes.
Because it could lead to a mistrial. It could lead to sanctions against your counsel if they didn't stop it. There's a lot of potential problems. This guy needs it out there to protect himself, but other witnesses... It's also a big problem. Imagine if Jen McCabe just started yelling stuff. We'll probably not like it in that situation.
So, you testified to this jury.
It doesn't matter. The jury is in the room, so they can tell them disregard everything, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the cow, as they say where Jamie's from.
About the information you received from John Mello about his concerns. You've testified to the jury about the documents you consulted about those concerns. You testified to the jury what you came to believe. You testified to the jury about the mailers you sent, about the affidavit you submitted, and now about the call to DSS. After you had done all these things to act on your concerns, and nothing had been done, tell this jury in early October of 2021, what's going on in your mind? What are you thinking?
I was still in the middle of this music project, so I had a lot on my plate there just professionally, and of course I was continuing and even increasing my support to help John save his daughter, Aida. And since June, when I had returned, I had been absolutely convinced that Christina Parcell was sexually abusing her daughter.
Let's go.
My support to help John save his daughter, Aida. And since June, when I had returned, I had been absolutely convinced that Christina Parcell was sexually abusing her daughter.
Säg till Your Honor! Säg till Your Honor! Säg till Your Honor! I never heard that before in a courtroom.
And since June, when I had returned, I had been absolutely convinced that Christina Parcell was sexually abusing her daughter.
Let's go.
Absolutely convinced that Christina Parcell was sexually abusing her daughter.
Let's go.
Säg till Your Honor! I think he got so flustered that he just something. He doesn't say anything. He says Secretary Honors. I think he because he know he's gonna try and put it in there all the times he can put it in there. So he is alert, ready to go, and then it just came out like Secretary, Your Honor. I don't. Probably something about a mix between sidebar and what was it I was trying to say? Objection. Yeah, something like objection sidebar that just got into Your Honor. And then they go on break, and they go for a break on a very, very long time. Move to strike, Your Honor. It could be. Again, I think everything just got muddled together. Apparently, when they came back from this break, I think Hughes says he's confused about something, and the judge instructs him to not mention the abuse, and he says he would do his best. He would put his hand on the Bible. Yeah, and if the state doesn't object, they have to object to it, so it's on the record. It was something. Yeah, it's that. I told you it was going to get spicy. How many times have he said cheese pizza since we came back? In 42 minutes, we have heard more about the cheese pizza than we have in 6 days. See you later. I'm going to be live tonight. Are you thinking about for an 11 show? Depends on when this ends. If it ends after 11, I won't do it. 11 my time. So it's after 5 p.m. I can't get up that early. Words hard, y'all. Jess is from the Derek Zoolander school of people who doesn't read that well or good. Yeah, well, keep that in mind. I'll just say that. Pulley on a hammer, Your Honor. Could be. Which was, yeah. Well, it's, again, you're not allowed to say everything in a courtroom, so I don't know. No, he said he would do his best, but he put his hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Okay, that's not what the text said you sent me, so I'm just saying. That gives us a new word for bingo. Not sure which spelling. See you later, Helen from Holland. Yeah, that's a very sorry, not sorry response. He's only been reminded 3 times not to say it, so.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated at the outset of this trial, I am sole judge of the law in the case, while you, the jury, sit as the judge of the facts. And part of my role is to make determinations about what evidence can and cannot be admitted and presented to you, the jury. The gatekeeping role rests solely with me, the judge on the law, and I want to instruct you that you're not to consider any testimony that I have instructed you to disregard. Furthermore, you should not even mention or discuss any testimony that I've instructed you to disregard, and I instruct you not to discuss any topics that have been ruled improper when you go to do your deliberation room, okay? All right, please continue, Mr. Morgan. Will incorporate.
Zach, before we broke for lunch, we were in the time period of end of September, beginning of October, of 2021. Remember that?
Yes.
Oh, and I have just been informed it's National Lash Day today. Jamie, happy birthday. Like President's Day, Jamie is the only living person who have a special day named after her, Lash Day. So everyone, have a nice Lash Day, and that's why Jamie isn't here today, because she is out spreading the lashes. Not the leg sack. Get your head out the gutter.
And Zach, you testified before lunch about
It was the prosecutor yelling objection and sidebar, we think.
two offers John had made you to kill Christina Parcell. Do you remember that?
I remember.
And do you remember, after the second offer, telling John something to the effect of, you would never do that for money, you would only do that if you believed it was necessary to rescue Aida?
And if I believed there was no other way.
At the end of September, beginning of October 2021, did you conclude that you had to rescue Aida and there was no other way?
Yes, I did.
Let's talk about what's happening in your life in the beginning of October 2021. And specifically, I want to talk about the status of the music project you have been engaged with Tom Strange and the City Hall Museum. I also want to talk about other employment opportunities. So tell the jury what was going on in your life on that front at the beginning of October.
At the beginning of October, I was just coming off finishing the project at the museum. We finished in September at some point, and as I mentioned before, my birthday is October 2nd, so I had arranged to play a private home recital at the Wynn's home, where I would play the last three piano sonatas of Beethoven on my birthday. So these are very, very difficult pieces of music, and some of the greatest pieces of music ever written, so I was very preoccupied trying to give my best to these pieces. And shortly after that, a friend of mine reached out who had done some work performing on cruise ships. There's an organization called Lincoln Center Stage that recruits conservatory-trained musicians to form either a piano quartet or a piano quintet to play classical concerts on cruise ships. And they had a pianist drop out at the last minute, and long story short, I interviewed for this job and got this job, I think on October 12th. But it was about that time.
Someone mentioned, how about the sentencing with the judge? The minimum, if it's a murder one charge in South Carolina, is mandatory minimum 30 years to life.
Maybe a little earlier.
Yes, according to a civil suit that daughter have made against her mom's estate with her new guardian ad litem. Again, I read parts of it the first day. If you don't like sleep, and if you really want another reason to hug your kids tonight, go read that charge. It is horrific. It's I won't read it for you again. I read like 10 lines of it. If you it's horrible. That's all I can say. I can't even describe it, what is claimed in that. It's not only the mom did it, her fiance did it, but potentially they also sold pictures of it and had maybe got payment to let other men have access to the daughter. That's what the civil suit alleges against the mom's estate and against the fiance.
Where or the wins on October 12th and 13th?
He's dropped 4 so far.
They were in Europe.
And ultimately, did you take Christina Parcells' life on October the 13th?
Yes.
No. It hasn't been provided to the jury. There's a court order. They can't bring it in. That's why he's been dropping it. But they don't know. The jury doesn't know what we know, and this is why so many people are frustrated, because at least it would probably lower the sentencing if a jury had to sentence someone. I know it's vigilante justice, and I know that that's not okay, and we are a society of laws, but I am also a big proponent of maps going through Mr. Chippy, because they are not human, in my opinion. You can claim whatever you want with, it was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. I'm a father of 2 young women who were young girls at a point. It has always been my biggest fear, because I probably can't say what I would have done on YouTube.
Because I believed it was absolutely necessary to save Aida, and I was right.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. I ask you to disregard the testimony that you just heard.
I want to talk about the timing. You've alluded to it a little bit, but I want to be more specific. October the 13th. Describe for the jury why you felt that was the time, why you waited, or why it was necessary to do it on October the 13th, specifically, or in this period of time.
I had been wrestling with this since June. As I previously stated, since the end of June, I believed Aida was in complete and grave danger every moment of her life that she was living with her mother. And the other things that I had tried to do to...
I have seen the tweet. I'll bring it up when we are going back on one of the pauses.
save her from that were not working. So I was having this incredible wrestling match within myself for these months, feeling that I needed to do something to save her, and yet feeling this incredible reluctance to do the one thing that I knew would save her because of how terrible I knew it would be to do it, even though I believed it would be right. So by the time October 13th rolled around, I had been grappling with this for a long time, and I was experiencing a tremendous amount of guilt that I had waited as long as I did, because I should have acted sooner, and I didn't do that. So I had come to the realization that I had gotten this offer to go on this cruise ship, and I would have been leaving the country for a long time. Essentially, it was now or never. I had an opportunity to save her from a danger that I knew she was in, and that I knew was not going to cease. And
let's just say, look at this guy. I felt sick reading the charges against him. Again, charges are not convictions, but if it just have a scintilla of truth to them, I felt sick reading it. I had to stop. Normally, I don't care. I'll see all the bloody pictures. I'll do all the stuff. I didn't read that. Kids is something special. I can't. But it's not only pictures. It's also acts. The mom did acts of a certain nature with her daughter and her daughter's friend, is what's being alleged.
I just couldn't go on with my life and leave her to drown. I mean, I had a great life. I had everything. I made money doing what I loved. I was going to be going to the South Pacific to play concerts for rich people on cruise ships. I mean, but how could I go and enjoy that and know that I was leaving a kid to her fate, a kid who thought that I was her friend? I would never have been able to look at myself in the mirror again if I had done that. So specific to October 13th, I believed that there would be a period of time at the house when Christina Parcell would be alone. And I wanted to make sure that absolutely no one was there. Not Aida, not Lutina, not Brad Post. Because again, this was not about revenge or retribution or anything. I wasn't angry. The only thing I was feeling that day was pity. And I wanted to make sure that no bystander or no one else would be involved in this, which could have happened if someone else was there.
Let's talk about that. So, once you concluded, believed absolutely this was what you had to do, did you go about planning?
Yes, I planned very carefully to make sure, one, like I said, that no one else would be involved in this. And two, I knew that if I tried to do this and failed, it would only be worse for Aida.
And consistent with the court's instructions, why did you believe it'd be worse for Aida?
Because I believed that if I was discovered doing this, it would connect me to John Mello. And I believed, and I still believe, that he's a great father and he is Aida's best shot at having a happy and safe childhood.
Let's talk about the planning. Did you get a gun?
Yes.
At the time, were you also carrying your own firearm?
Yes, I had a concealed weapons permit at the time, so I generally would always be carrying a 9mm concealed weapon on my person for personal protection.
Did you get another firearm for this?
Yes, I did.
What type of firearm did you get?
It was a .22 caliber revolver.
I think that could be a negative for the jury, because he could just have given her some freedom seat holes, but he chose to use a stabulator.
Where did you get it?
At a gun show.
Where was the gun show?
It was here in Greenville.
How long before October 13th did you get the .22?
Maybe a month or a month and a half earlier.
Did you also get a knife?
Yes, I did.
Where did you get the knife?
At the gun show.
At about the same time?
It was the same day.
Let's talk about what else, what other planning you did. Did you obtain gloves?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember where you got the gloves?
No, I don't.
Did you obtain any chemicals?
Yes, I bought some paint thinner because, again, I didn't want to be connected to this because I wanted to make sure this would actually do something to save Aida. So in case a glove had broken or I had left a fingerprint or something, I wanted to be able to clean it with the paint thinner.
You should have cleaned her hands then.
Zach, let's talk about.
Yeah, talking about acts like that in such a calm way is weirdly.
What you did to become familiar with the area of Canebrake leading up to October the 13th.
I had looked at a route I would be able to take from the mountain house that I was staying at on back roads to avoid traffic cameras. So maybe a few days beforehand, I looked at Google Maps and I figured out how this route would lead.
Let's talk about October the 12th.
Yeah, but if you look at the placements, there was a lot in the face and the neck. That's not normally stabulating area. It's mostly center mass. So that's a little weird.
Did you originally plan to do this on October the 12th?
Yes.
Zach, consistent with the court's instructions, describe to the jury why you didn't do it on October the 12th.
I woke up that day and I just felt such reluctance, and something in my gut told me it wasn't the right day. And I waited one more day.
Let's go to October the 13th. You testified earlier that you wanted a plan in part to prevent or minimize danger to others. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Did you have information about where people would be on October the 13th?
To a degree, yes.
How did you get that information?
From John Miller.
What did he tell you?
I'm not sure.
He told me when Aida would be at school, and he told me that he believed Christina had a job interview at some point that morning.
So let's talk about that morning. The evening of October the 12th, where did you spend the night?
At the Mountain House.
You woke up on the morning of October 13th and you left the Mountain House, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Do you remember approximately when you left the Mountain House?
Aida is with her dad. Before that, she was with her older sister, who's not a family member of Christina's, but a dad's previous relationship.
It was much later than I meant to. I think it was about 8 or 8:15 in the morning.
When you left the Mountain House, in which vehicle did you leave?
In my Ford Ranger.
What was in the back of the Ford
According to the police, they have thousands of pictures.
Ranger?
My bike.
That bike right there?
Yes.
And just for the clarity of the record, this is a state's exhibit. I don't have the number that was in the booth. What else did you put in your pickup truck in addition to the bike?
I brought the gloves, and I put this in a backpack. I brought the paint thinner and the gun I described, the .22. I brought a knife, and I brought a box that was made to look like a gift wrapped box, and a bunch of roses that I had bought the day before.
It wasn't only roses.
Talking about the roses in a minute. When you left the Mountain House, where did you go?
I drove to a road that runs parallel very close to Canebrake.
When you got to that location, well, before we go further, describe for this jury the ride in your truck from the Mountain House to this location, what you were thinking, what you were feeling, what was going through your mind.
Like I said, I had wrestled with this for months. I had come to the point where rationally I knew that the only way Aida was going to be saved from what she was enduring was for me to take this route. I knew that. But there's another element, a human element, which is just so reluctant and revulsed by the idea of taking a human life. So I had prayed a great deal about this. I had prayed like I'd never prayed before, because even knowing that logically this was the right thing to do, it didn't satisfy that emotional and human aspect where I felt that I needed permission to do this. And I was so terrified that somehow I might be doing the wrong thing. Like I knew that it was right logically, but the emotional aspect was just reeling against this idea. And more so because she was a woman. I was raised to always protect my sisters and mother, and I opened doors for women growing up. So this idea was just repugnant to me, even though I believed it was necessary to save a child. So on that morning, I had prayed earlier, a few days earlier, and I had felt that this was the right thing to do, no matter how terrible and difficult it was going to be. So like I said, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity because I realized that this was just the only way to save a child. And it felt like a foregone conclusion because I knew that I had a duty to do this to save a child. So physically driving my truck there, I was experiencing a level of anxiety and physical illness that I had just never experienced due to stress before. My hands were shaking, I was in a cold sweat, and I was fighting the urge to vomit before I even got close there. A few times I thought I was going to have to pull off to the side of the road because I could hardly keep my truck straight. My hands were shaking so badly. But the whole time I was just thinking, if I don't do this, if I turn back, then I'm consigning Aida to her fate, when I know that I could have done something to stop what was happening. So I just
He claimed that the dad offered him 5,000 and 10,000.
tried to take my mind off of it, and I tried to just go and drive a little bit farther and a little bit farther and not think about what I was going to have to do when I got there. And when I finally got to the point where I parked my truck, this feeling only increased. I knew the plan, but I was having so much difficulty going through with it. So I took my bike out of the truck, and I had a mask on and clothing that's been described already. And I just tried to focus on putting one foot in front of the other on my bike. And it felt like some runs or rucks I had been on where all I could do was focus on putting one foot in front of the other because it was so difficult to keep going. And I just kept seeing Aida's face and reminding myself that if I don't do this, no one's going to come to save her. And I kept pedaling, and eventually I arrived in front of 122 Canebrake.
Zach, we're going to talk about what happened when you got to 122 Canebrake in just a second. You described having a gun and having a knife. Initially, were you going to use the gun?
Yes.
Did you ultimately
No evidence that he had any sums paid to his accounts.
decide to use the gun?
No.
Why not?
I was very concerned about using a gun because of how loud it would be, and I didn't want to alert a neighbor or a bystander who might come to investigate and get involved. So I tried to suppress the gun by making a makeshift suppressor. And in movies, these things are made out to be like it's very easy, and a suppressed gun is just very silent, and that's not the case. So ultimately, I test fired the gun, and I had bought some subsonic ammunition, which is supposed to be quieter, but I didn't realize that on.
He did have custody over the kid when he moved to Italy. The mom had no visitation, no nothing. Then she went to the European court in Hague and sued, and they gave her custody back. It has since been returned to the dad again and said it was a mistake it was ever given to the mom in the first place. So, again, nothing is right. You shouldn't do that. But there's also so many failures in the system. By the way, Harmony Montgomery's mom is also suing her state for their system effing up. Well, she did too, because she wasn't around to take care of her daughter because she liked the drugs too much, but still, the state didn't help.
Revolver, the suppressor doesn't work because the end of the cylinder is open, and I realized just a day or two beforehand that I couldn't use a gun because it could potentially involve someone else in this if someone heard a gunshot and came to investigate.
If you had had a choice, would you have rather used a gun?
I would have rather not to have had to have done it at all, but if I had to, yes, I would have chosen a gun
Why is that?
because it would have been quicker and more humane.
All right, let's talk about, you arrive at the house in 122 Canebrake. Do you remember about what time you arrived there?
I think it was a little after 9 in the morning.
And you arrived there on your bike? Is that it?
Yes.
And you testified about this a little bit, but tell the jury what you're wearing.
I had on black pants and a black thermal and a gray shirt over that. I had on a black beanie and a white medical mask, and I had on black gloves and a black backpack.
Do you remember how many vehicles were parked in the driveway when you got there?
One.
When you arrived at the house and you got off your bike, what did you do?
I laid my bike down in the driveway, and I took my backpack off, and I took out the box that had been gift wrapped that had an end open, and I put the .22 revolver in that box. And I put the backpack back on my back, and I took a bunch of roses, and I walked up to the door, and I rang the doorbell. And I was shaking and freaking out at this point, because there was nowhere I wanted to be less than at that house on that morning. And when I rang the doorbell, the door opened and a woman came to the front. And I thought it was Christina Parcell, but I wanted to make sure. And I also wanted to make sure that no one else was home. So I told her that while I was holding the box and the roses, that I had a delivery for Lutina Parcell, her sister. And she told me that Lutina wasn't home. So at this
Tina
point I
now?
realized that
Wasn't her name Tina?
Christina was at the house alone. And I handed her the roses, and I took the revolver out of the box, and I pointed it at her, and I told her to be quiet and to go back into the house, which she did. And I followed her into the house, and I shut the door. And I was experiencing such anxiety that my body wasn't really doing what I was telling it to do anymore. When I realized that I couldn't use the gun, which was unloaded at this point, my plan had been to try to knock her unconscious, because I didn't want to cause her or anyone any pain. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to save Aida and to make sure that no one else who was a bystander would be involved in this or could be endangered in any way. So I tried,
I believe
while
so,
she was
yes.
holding the roses, to strike her on the head and knock her unconscious. But my body was fighting me, because even though I knew who she was and what she was doing and the danger that was putting Aida in, I was still looking at her and I was seeing a sympathetic figure.
No, that's a misstatement of the facts in the case. They weren't sprinkled. It looked like someone had been fighting with a bouquet of flowers.
I was seeing a woman, and I had always been taught never to hurt a woman, to always protect women and children. So when I went to strike her with the gun, my hand didn't really do what I was trying to tell it to. I essentially pulled my strike. It felt like a time I had been cliff jumping with friends. I have a big fear of heights, and there was a 30-foot face that you could jump off and jump into a deep pool of water, and when I would run up to the edge, I would try to get a running start and jump off the edge, and I just couldn't. Like, my body would stop me against my will. And I had to try to do this 10 or 15 or 20 times before I could actually get myself to go over the edge. So when I struck her on the head with the pistol, that's what happened. It didn't knock her unconscious, and I hardly struck her at all, to be honest. So I tried again, and the same thing happened. I just couldn't bring myself to strike her. And at this point, she realized that I was hesitating, and she began to try to move herself and to get away and fight back. And during this period of time, the roses had dropped and the petals and stems had scattered. And as I was hesitating, I realized that this situation was quickly getting out of control. And if I didn't pull myself together and act soon, this was all going to end up terribly for Aida, because what was happening to her would never be uncovered.
Just a quick question. You heard testimony that at this time, Christina weighed 163 pounds. How much did you weigh on October the 13th?
160.
Go ahead.
So I realized that I was going to have to somehow force myself to do this at any cost. So I pulled out the knife I was wearing. And even though I knew I wasn't going to be able to strike her with any amount of force, I still tried. So I started striking her, though my strikes were pulled. And I think the knife made contact with her, but it wasn't stopping her, and it wasn't inflicting anything that could be a fatal blow. And she started to fight back. She realized I was hesitating, and it became a struggle. And in this struggle, all I could do was try to overcome this resistance I had towards doing this thing. Even though I knew it was right, I still had this physical and emotional resistance to doing it. So I just kept striking her until finally we fell on the floor. And at this point, I had just tried to take my mind out of it and just try to get through this and finish it as quickly as possible, because I realized that it was only becoming prolonged, and I had to do this in order to save Aida. So I don't remember how many times I struck her. I just remember that when it finished, we were on the
To
ground.
save the little girl.
And I stopped striking her when she stopped struggling. And at this point, I stood up, and I was still freaking out, and I was in kind of a daze. And I was just trying to pull myself together and figure out what I needed to do to leave the house. And again, I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything behind that would connect me to it, because then I believe John would be connected to it, and it would only further put Aida in danger, because I didn't know if Christina Parcell was the only person involved in what was happening to Aida. And she wasn't. So I quickly looked around to make sure I hadn't left a mask or a glove, and I started to pick up the rose petals and realized that I just didn't have time to do that. Again, I was concerned that a neighbor might have heard the commotion and that a neighbor might come by to investigate, and I didn't want that. So I drew the blinds, and I moved her body away from the door, which had windows, because I didn't want someone to come to the door and see her. And I put my things back in the backpack, and I looked in a mirror before I left to make sure everything was in order, and I saw that she had scratched my face in the struggle. And of course, I realized that this could leave DNA. So I used the paint thinner to try to clean her hands. And then I changed my mask, and I took off my outer shirt because there was blood on it. And I put it in the backpack. And at this point, I was really worried that someone, that Lutina might come back to the house, or Brad Post might come to the house, or a neighbor might come over. So I was trying to leave the house as quickly as possible. And before I left, when I realized that I had probably left my DNA there, despite my effort not to, I prayed again and just said that I believe that what I've done is the right thing, and I believe that I did it for the right reason. But if it's your will that I be connected to this, then I will turn myself in, and I will own up to what I've done, and I'll take responsibility for it, because I believed that it was the right thing. And then I left. I exited out through the door, and I got back on my bike, and I pedaled my bike back to the truck, and I drove back to the mountain house. And I was still completely freaking out, and it felt entirely surreal. But there is a big difference in how I felt, in that as soon as I left the house, I felt the most enormous wave of relief wash over me, because I knew from that moment on, Aida would be safe. Aida would be safe from the sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating on her. And there is proof to that the state is hiding from you.
Instruct him to be quiet.
Okay, you need to stop talking.
There's an enormous wave of relief wash over me, because I knew from that moment on, Aida would be safe. Aida would be safe from the sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating on her, and there is proof to that the state is hiding from you.
Instruct him to be quiet.
Okay, you need to stop talking. The jury.
Aida would be safe from the sexual abuse that her mother was perpetrating on her, and there is proof to that the state is hiding from you.
Instruct him to be quiet.
Okay, you need to stop talking.
He understood the assignment. I don't know if this will help him, but everything that wasn't allowed in
The jury.
has been mentioned now, and everyone was saying, how would the jury react if they found out after that that this was held from them? Well, now they know. And this is how far we got today. Not the right way to testify, not according to the rules, but I'm pretty sure that he's happy. Jesus. Fitz News says investigators with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office have made another arrest in connection with the unaliving of Christine Parcell, who was unalived on October 13, 2021. A recent GCSO press release reads, based on open court testimony during the active trial of Zachary Hughes, along with existing evidence, investigators with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office obtained warrants on the 64-year-old John Joey Mello in connection with the unaliving of Parcell. Earlier this afternoon, at around 1:30 p.m., members of the GCSO Fugitive Apprehension Specialized Investigations Team arrested Mello at his residence located at 12 Blake Street in Greenville. Mello is facing charges of accessory before the fact to a felony and solicitation to commit a felony, and will be escorted to Greenville County Detention Center to await a bond hearing. So his plan to save this young woman by unaliving the mom so she could get away will now probably cost her father as well. So interesting day today is all I can say. What if they declare mistrial and then he gets a retrial and then he just does the same thing again? Well, at some point they will probably gag him. They are allowed to do that. If he keeps breaking the rules, they did it with Dale Brooks, sent him to another room. You can't gag a person if they don't want to follow the rules. If you are so noble, why didn't you turn yourself in right away instead of running? Because he didn't want it to tie back to Mello. He said that's why he did it, because then he was going on that cruise ship. Then why didn't he do it before the day before cruise ship? I don't understand. Yes, because this guy testified he was offered $5,000, turned it down, $10,000, turned it down. That's an attempt to solicit a felony. And the coercion is him talking about what happened to the daughter to make him do this. Probably will go with the psycho end now. No, she will never be with that family again. Most likely she will end up with Mello's daughter. She has been with Mello's daughter before, her big sister. I would believe that would be the most reasonable place. The psycho end is actually having a case against Mello to have visitation, have the parental rights. We see this in some cases, so they can see their their loved ones, kids, to have in connection with the family. But that's also where the allegations about taking pictures when coming out of a shower arose, is from that lawsuit. But those have been retracted. That the aunt also did bad stuff. Just to because I see a few people have mentioned it during the trial in chat. They have been retracted. Ada had made those claims that her aunt had taken picture of her when she left the shower, but it's retracted. So there's no charges against the aunt. Mello has an older daughter. I'm sure that's where Ada goes. Yeah, she has had her before. It is a very, very tangled case. I don't know. I thought the first time he mentioned it, and Jemima can back me up on this one, so can Marissa, so can Jamie, because I did it in our group chat. I said, well, can this be a mistrial? Jemima didn't believe so. But then he just kept shoveling coal on the furnace, mentioning all the stuff he's not allowed to talk about. At what point, well, the prosecution, maybe the judge will say the prosecution will have to ask for it before he will grant a mistrial. I don't know. How old was the daughter? At the time, 9. I think 9 at the time. Trial TV said if there's a mistrial, he can't get retried. I wish I could remember why something about jeopardy. That's wrong, because it's his action that led to a mistrial. So it's not double jeopardy to try him again in this case. It's the same. It's not double jeopardy to try Karen Reed again, because there's no verdict in the case. It'll be a mistrial. It'll be tossed out, and then there will be scheduled a new date with a. So I'm sorry, I love Trial TV Live, but you can declare mistrial. If you declare mistrial with prejudice, then they throw it out, and it can't be brought again for double jeopardy. But in this instant, it would be the defendant who caused the mistrial, or else you could just be Del Brooks in the courtroom and get off. But he wouldn't. He would be subject to another trial. Yeah, but again, we have a society of laws and blah blah blah. You know how it is. Apparently, the judges just returned to the bench, so that's in a half an hour time. The jury, when Zach let it fly, mouths flew open. They looked at each other, shifted in their seats, looked out at all of us. They really just looked shell-shocked. As the prosecutor tried to talk over Zach, they didn't know where to look. According to Pretty Lies and Alibis, this is the reaction from the juror. Interesting. Well, that we'll see that when they return in half an hour. I don't know. Is he gonna? If he gonna, please tell me if he's gonna throw the jury home, because then we don't have to. No, just don't want to spoil it if it goes on. So I'll just, again, please no spoilers if you're reading along on Pretty Lies and Alibis or Fit News or all the others, because there's some updates right now from the courtroom. Please don't spoil it for those of us who isn't, well, Jemima sends it to me, so people can watch it on screen. Please don't put it in chat. Yeah, this is correct. Yeah, it would be dismissed as a mistrial, but it'd still be dismissed from the courtroom. Yeah, we talked about it Friday, that there was all these little things that, wouldn't it pique the jury's interest? But after all of this now, whoo-hee. Exactly. Only if it's the prosecutor who causes the mistrial, yes, but not if it's the defendant, because then every defendant would just dance around and act like a fool. You haven't heard my opinion. My opinion on this case. My opinion is he did it, and my opinion on you should be able to play judge, jury, and executioner. Not a fan. But I did leg training today, so I have a butt pump. Not in that way, Zach. And when you have a butt pump, it's a little bit bigger, so I can put in an extra little butt. I also think that maps belong on the wall. PDF files should always be threaded through Lord Chippy on the lowest setting, so it'll take a good long time to get every page again from the PDF file through Lord Chippy. So I am in two minds about this case. Legally, he's guilty. He's guilty as sin. Morally, he's guilty. Guilty as sin. If he didn't admit to it, I would bet he at least could get a hung jury. That's what I say. A butt pump. That's a butt in your gluteus maximus. Thank you, Jemima. No, we haven't had a poll. Always feet first, and maybe with some rope to, again, just to make sure it doesn't go too fast when you put your PDF files into Lord Chippy. Yes, like you get an arm pump in your arms when you're training your arms. I was training legs today, so I have you use your gluteus maximus, and that's your butt. So when you get a pump in that, your butt gets a little bit bigger. That's you girls, when you're going down there and you're doing all the donkey kicks, when you want to have the bubble butt, it doesn't work. You should do some squats instead. But that's what you're chasing, is the butt pump. Yeah, this is the first vigilante, but also you have one of the problems I have with this is he's once apart from the girl. Had it been the father, I probably would have closed my eyes and voted, didn't see any evidence of that at all. Innocent. Kind of like the guy in the airport. But this is a step apart. A brother, a father, mother, whatever, who did it. I would have a very different view on it. But this is a guy who's not directly involved in it. So I'm not a fan of his actions, but I'm very much not a fan of the victim either. That's my big problem. Well, then you can half squat. I did hack squats today. I'm not glad. say glutes, not butt. It's the same thing. It's not different. After that testimony is guilty as guilty can be, is there a juror he might convince that he was a hero? Maybe. Yeah, that's because, again, I'm not a fan of maps. Maps should be securely fastened to the wall with very, very big nails. Yeah, and again, please, if you go look for the spoilers, please don't put them in chat. Let people have the experience when it comes up live. That's I have my good days and my bad days. The father will be charged with accessory and attempting to hire a hitman. Of course he will. He just testified that this happened. He will then have to witness against him at the father's trial. Yeah, but again, there is, because we see it in a lot of cases, they're not allowed to talk about what they want to talk about. And I don't know. I think in this case, the state have opened the door so many times, they should have been allowed to talk about it. The father also could have just come to the US, gotten custody. He had custody. He lost custody in Europe because of the European human rights crabbiola in Hague, and then found a way to uncover what was going on. He knew what was going on. He alerted the authorities. They didn't want to listen to him to get them arrested. They couldn't get them arrested because the authorities didn't believe. They just thought, like, I'm sad to say, I have the opinion in a lot of those cases that has the same elements like this. The CPS worker, the cop who takes the call, will just say, that's just a jealous ex-husband. So they won't believe you. They just say, well, oh, you got a divorce? Yeah. Oh, you lost custody? Yeah, of course. Of course she's doing this. He did all the right stuff. They contacted everyone. Judges, police, the guardian ad litem. No one believed him. Then he got angry, and then they absolutely did not believe him. And that's sadly what we see in a lot of those cases where either the mom or the dad does something bad. It'll be written off as, well, it's just a jealous ex who wants to take the kids away. That's the sad reality. But again, it doesn't give him the right to unalive someone. What's the time in Italy right now? It's 10 o'clock. But the father hasn't been in Italy since 2021. He returned to the US 6 days after his ex-wife was unalived. He has been arrested. Yes, yeah, but again, the big question will be, how much does the cheese pizza affect the jury? It is unfortunate in some cases, but the why is sort of irrelevant as to if the crime was committed. It can only be a mitigating factor for sentencing, which is out of the jury's hands. Yeah, I agree with you. As long as the kid wasn't in a clear and present danger, it's hard to use the self-defense or the defense of other defense. But he could hope for leniency, but there's a mandatory 30 years in South Carolina for first degree. No, he came back to get his girl. The girl was placed with the aunt, then with a foster family. A foster family, and the aunt tried to get her, but she ended up with her big sister, and then she ended up with her dad. Na 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 na. Right stuff. Na 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 na. If he was back in the U.S., though, she would be living with him. Nope, because he lost custody in the European court. The mom had agreed to give away her custody. Then he went to Italy, and then she went to the European. I can tell you, the European court is even more lenient than the American court. So even if he had come home, he would still have to fight a court battle to try and get his daughter back. So again, you can't blame the dad for being in Italy. There was nothing wrong with him moving the kid to Italy because the mom had no visitation rights. He had granted her visitations. She had given everything up. Why? There was no real answer to why she did it. Could it be why wasn't the boyfriend ever around when the kid was there, allegedly, according to the sister? So he was in all the rights to do it, but then the court system came in and they start fighting for this poor mom, and didn't listen when they were alerted that someone did something they effing shouldn't have done. No, we are not allowed to. Absolutely don't condone it. Well, we're a little behind, but we will be back, and it's just annoying that there's this 30-minute delay, and I know what's coming up. The right stuff. This is a horrible. It's a victim that I wouldn't urinate on if she was on fire, and a guy who's probably got a bit of a superhero syndrome, and he just testified and started talking about a lot of CP stuff that is against the rulings in the case. So, yeah, it's a bit of a lost of luck. And, yeah. Hey, Money J. No, this, I'm thinking about the meme from Anchorman. Woo, this escalated quickly. By the way, if Julio can get out of bed this Saturday, she will be on Stabby Day. So you better tell her if you see her around. She normally hangs out over at the Experts. Who does that? Tell her if you see her Friday night, get to bed, lady. Because we will have her on Stabby Day this Saturday if she can get out of bed. Maybe she's a Valhalla. Maybe she's a person who can get out of bed. I never fast forward. I fast forward all the time. This is live. I can tell you, this is as live as it gets. The court is on a 30-minute delay. The reason why I went off screen earlier and had my dinner was because I knew we were coming up on nothing. So we have fast forwarded through the 30 minutes of testimony we have gotten in. It's been a 6-hour day. I think active court time is less than an hour. So, but court is on a 30-minute delay. That's why nothing is happening, even though you can read on Twit that something has happened. We should be back in roughly 15-20 minutes. So I'm just sitting here talking about nothing to try and entertain you while hopefully court will come back. The right stuff. Nope, 30 minutes delay. It's the same like every other day. That's why we start late. That's why we stay late. Court is on a 30-minute delay. We can't speed it up. I can't make it faster. If you go check out all the feeds, judges have demanded that court was on a 30-minute delay. Every sidebar must be done without audio and picture. This is the worst type of case to cover because you can get the information online and you get bored because I'm just sitting here yamming and singing the right stuff for you. Jamie's favorite band is New Kids on the Block, and she loves the right stuff. She also loves Five Guys, which I think is a bit excessive, Jamie. One guy, maybe two, if it's a good day. But this is a weird case. There's stupid restrictions on it because I can't. Well, I can sit and read the other people's Twitter, but then just turn it off and give you the link to their tweets. So we have to do with what we have. The right stuff. I am always behind, but that's because I lacked oxygen during the birth. Don't have a clear view of Elvis. He's in the box right there. It's so freaking tricky with CP. How can you prove it? You're guilty if you possess it, even if you want to take them down. Well, you can start by looking into them. The funny thing is, and that's the thing, I've mentioned it a few times. We have the Colombian fun powder. We still have no source for the Colombian fun powder. We know she was getting tested. You don't get tested if there's no reason to get tested. She must have been a user before. She must have a history of it, or else she wouldn't be put into test. The sister said she was being tested constantly. This guy didn't say, I brought a bag of fun powder. So did the guardian ad litem lie and the sister lie when she said they didn't use it? I don't know. Candles are in the way. No, because you're thinking about this Elvis. Well, it's I'm trying to, but I have a little Elvis figure. Yeah, I'm pointing on my screen. You can't see it. The gray box there is an Elvis figure. How did me and Jamie meet? We met in MLS's chat. I came in. I was a young man when I turned on looking for a trial to follow, because normally I would always watch trials on Recada or Legal Vices. That Jemima, do you think that there's more testimony, or will it just be? Yeah, there must be more testimonies. I can't even end it right now. But I was a young, bushy-eyed, bright-tailed young man coming into the MLS's chat because I was looking for trials, and I think it was after Rackets went on vacation, and Vices didn't cover anything, and then I saw a weirdo called Dave was covering the Letitia Stout case, and I thought, I'll swing by, see what's up. And I was hanging out in his chat, and he had this wonderful goddess-like woman who was constantly flicking her lashes, and I thought, she's amazing. And then we started making fun of the Letitia Stout case. Maybe it was the Zachariah Anderson case. It was one of those cases. And I was talking about how I do the jury thing in Denmark. And Dave said, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm married to one of the worst persons in the world, not because I met her, she's a wonderful person, but she's Swedish. It's genetic. So I could be interested in to talk to you about what you're doing in the Danish system." And I said, Okay. And we had a stream, and he said, "Oh, you did pretty well. You speak English at least as well as slightly Downsy 1-year-old." And I said, "I think, thank you." And then he said, "Why don't you cover cases?" And I said, "Because I don't speak English." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna cover a case in Texas. Yeah, Texas. Could we maybe do it together so I can do my day job and we can hang out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure thing. Why not?" And he said, "You do know that it's not really my decision. It's the boss is Jamie. You'll have to apply with her. She have some demands." And I said, "How bad can she be?" And then we went on a Zoom call, Jamie and I, and she started screaming at me for 2 hours, beating me down until I signed a contract. I can't disclose much of the contract other than I owe her 105% of every cent I make on this channel. But that's how Jamie and I started meeting. And then we watched that trial, got so bored with it, we started looking for something else. And then we found the wonderful Bradley Yon. For those of you who didn't watch the Bradley Yon case, this is Bradley Yon.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh my God, Baker. Baker's a clairvoyant. Jesus.
That's a really. So covered that case, and then she said, "Hey, Fatso, stop taking so many breaks. Get back on it. Do more trials. Dave is lazy. Mama needs her lashes." So she forced me into streaming. That's how Jamie and I met. And I haven't had a day off since then. Every time I call her and say, "Jamie, can we talk about the arrangement?" And she said, "You want to give me more money?" And I say, "No, I want a day off, then give me more money." I said, "But I already pay you 105% of everything I own. That means I have no income. Plus I have to pay taxes of the money I'll never receive." And she says, "That's actually what happens every time I try." That's how it happens.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I'm Jimmy. How y'all doing?
You know what?
Yes,
When did you first meet Maureen?
this is the summer of 14.
And
the most important people in this case that everybody seems to have forgotten in this room is the jury. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and both sides take a pregnant pause and think about the jury.
That's the origin story of Jamie and I. And no, we are not dating, and no, we're not married. Am I still supposed to say that to them? Yes. She's not in the other room. Yeah, then he sent us sailing like ships without a rudder. Islands in the stream, that is what we are. Nothing in between. I don't know the lyrics, but I think it's either about being lonely or in a relationship. I don't know. Only because Jamie keeps telling you no. Yes. I'm still more fond of Judge Borowski, even though this judge also yelled a lot of people. What did what hand motion mean? Did I do a hand motion? Who did a hand motion? Where? Yes, I can confirm we are the best of friends. I have never ever experienced Jamie being mean. Whenever I say it, it's only because I make fun of her. Jamie is a wonderful person. She's good to animals and she is a wonderful friend who will always always help you if you are in need. I can't wait to see her when she comes. You spelled Denmark wrong. Denmark with Iris, who she absolutely didn't try to unalive with her garage door. It was an accident. Iris made a big fuss out of nothing. Jamie is wonderful. All hail Jamie. Jamie is the sweetest, lashiest girl on the planet. I mean that, and I chose to say these words. No, absolute no. Could never. Yeah, that's a horrible song. I am sailing across the ocean. I don't like that. No, I'm slight an idiot. Yeah, and you're gonna tell the judge that I'm a wonderful person. Yeah, it's my fault, Your Honor. Sarah is such a good person and good to animals, and she's good to animals. Yes, I mean all of it. I just don't want to chancler again. When Jamie and I show up, you guys got to do a video with them standing there. You have a black eye and reading a ransom note. They will tape that video. I will have nothing to do with it. I will just read what. I bet you the first thing Iris is doing is, you want the chancler, and then I'll do whatever I'm told. This is the first, a 1% as mean as Jamie. I haven't seen that one before. But I will be, I'm not going to do the thing where we are running around everywhere with a camera, but we will be doing some little slice of video here and there because I can put that man up as well. We are having our Scandinavian meetup on the 8th of March, which is in 2 weeks. Yeah. About 2 weeks, where we will meet up on the Copenhagen Central Station, 10 o'clock in the morning. And if Pernilla is allowed in, we have certain restrictions on how many Swedes we will let into the country every day. And we'll do a tour of Copenhagen, go around, see some castles, talk about, I don't know what. And I might even show Jamie the Little Mermaid. Which Jamie asked, why do you have a little mermaid? And I said, because of the fairy tale. Yeah, I know the fairy tale. Yeah, that's Hans Christian Andersen. Jamie didn't know that. She thought it was Disney. Like Disney ever made an original. Yeah, but again, that half can come. The rest you have to leave behind. Yeah, Hans Christian Andersen was Danish. Yes, he was born 45 minutes away from where I'm sitting right now, and I have. They rebuilt his museum. It's okay now. Before it was really boring. You could just see the house he was born in, and his mom washed clothes for wealthy people. There is a rumor that he might be an illegitimate son of the Danish king, but that's just a lie. Something he started spreading later in his life. But he's also famous because he was couch surfing on all the island I'm living on is, I believe, per capita, the island with most castles. So he went around on all these castles and taught the kids and wrote them fairy tales, and then stayed for free in the rich people's houses. He was a weird person. Noted in his diary every time he had a wank. Why? He did. Yes, it's not a good story. It has nothing to do with under the sea, under the sea. Down here it's weather. It's getting better under the sea. Oh, thank you. I'm not trying to be charming. It's just the way it is. I hate listening to Danish people talk English, but it's just weird. It sounds weird. No, he was filled with straw because that was what you had in mattresses back then. It's so weird because they have the original bed and they had one bed in the house where probably the family slept to keep each other warm, but it was so short. Everyone was Dave's size back then, so like 4 foot. So it's a really short bed that they slept in, and it's, I don't know the different sizes. You have like your single bed, and then you have, I don't know what you call it, queen and king and whatever it is, but it's not that big. It's not much bigger than a single bed is today, and then very short. It's just a weird one, but the museum has become quite good. And in the summertime, you can go to what's called Fairy Tale Garden, and they do plays of Hans Christian Andersen every day. So if you're ever in Odense, you go look that up. Interesting. Yeah, but it sounds weird for Danish. Danish accent is weird. Hey, darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. I don't know why when I having leg day, I'm always listening to Disney's greatest hits. Nothing is better than listening to Sebastian sing "Under the Sea" in Danish, of course, while you're training calves. I don't know why. I actually sometimes I can kind of do a Nigerian accent. It's happened twice in the 3 years I had the channel. I don't call it a kink. It's just some people need death metal. I need.
As we go about this trial, I want to instruct you to disregard the last comments that you heard. I also want to just remind you, as I've stated from the outset of this trial, that I'm the sole judge of the law in this case, and while you, the jury, sit as the sole judge of the facts, and part of my role is to make determinations about what evidence can and cannot be admitted and presented to you, the jury, and that gatekeeping role rests solely with me, the judge on the law. And I want to instruct you that you're not to consider any testimony that I have instructed to you to disregard, and furthermore, you should not even mention or discuss any testimony that I have instructed you to disregard. And I instruct you not to discuss any topics that have been ruled improper when you deliberate. Thank you. Mr. Moore?
What you don't know, because again, it wasn't played in court. That's why I didn't want to bring it up, because I had hoped it would be mentioned in court. Judge have held Zachariah Hughes in contempt and sentenced him to 6 months in jail. When the judge told Zach he has been held in contempt and sentenced to 6 months in jail, Zach said, "I understand." And then the jury came back, and we just got this reading.
Zach, just got a few more questions. So, after you left Canebrake, isn't it true that you rode your bike back to your truck, which was parked within the vicinity? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And then you drove your truck back to the Mountain House. Isn't that true?
That's true.
After you got to the Mountain House, isn't it true that you disposed of the gun and the knife in a nearby lake? Isn't that true?
Yes, that is true.
And isn't it true that the clothes you were wearing, that you burned those clothes in a fire pit at the Mountain House? Isn't that true?
Yes.
I want to talk about towards the end of October, beginning of November. Isn't it true that at the very beginning of November 2021, you had obtained a plane ticket to fly overseas? Isn't that true?
Yes, that's true.
And you were going to go overseas departing from Detroit. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And while you were in Detroit, isn't it true that you received a phone call making you aware that there were warrants pending for your arrest?
That is true.
And after you were notified of the pending warrants, isn't it true that you rented a car, drove back in the middle of the night to Greenville, and ultimately turned yourself in? Isn't that true?
Yes, that is true.
Because he didn't want to use his pew-pew, so he wanted to knock her unconscious, but she wasn't a slight girl, according to him. She was heavier than him, so it didn't work. So he slapped her around a few times with a pew-pew in the face, and then they got in a fight, and he just started stabulating until she stopped. I don't buy that because there's so many stabulations to the face, but that's what he said.
1 second.
It's not a leading question as long as the state doesn't object to it.
Okay. At this moment, well, can I see counsel?
That was the end of the direct examination of Zachary Hugh. What a rush. I will say, like the Road Warriors. What a rush. It has. This is probably the case that, because sometimes when it goes cray-cray, it's because, like in the Letitia Stout case, where she just have 25 different, it's the Petco Mafia, it's a guy down the street, someone fell on a bike, the vampires in Alaska that goes from house to house. It's just some weird explanation. But this case, the background, the keeping stuff in, letting stuff get out. Jury is dancing in and out of the courtroom 24/7. The state, other than the DNA evidence, not really proving it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to break for the day, and I'm going to ask that y'all return at 10:30 tomorrow morning. I'm hoping that we're not going to have bad weather, but just potentially that will give a little extra
10:30.
time, and also
So we won't get a
for me to
signal
take
till
up
11.
a few things that I need to do with the attorneys. I want to again thank you on behalf of the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, we don't want to care. So 10:30 tomorrow, that'll mean start time at 11. To me, that lets me to believe Cross won't be that long because they don't want him to blurt it out again. And again, he admitted he did it. So we're probably going to go straight into closing arguments. I can't see closing arguments being that long. He admitted it. He admitted it, but he told you why he did it. Disco tango a la ca. That should be the closing arguments. I'm with you, Jenny. I wouldn't ask one question on cross-examination because he admitted he did it. Why? To save a kid. I would not do one single question on cross just because I would be afraid he would say, "Oh, by the way, cheese pizza, cheese pizza, cheese pizza." I would just, I would try to save it in closing arguments. So yeah. Right to closing would make the most sense. No need to cross since you already admitted the crime. Yeah, that's where I'm going. Does the jury want to use the nullification option? I think not. That is very rare. Most jury doesn't know that there's a jury nullification option. It's something us weirdos who watch trials know. Most people have no idea what, if any, that is. Should they be instructed? Probably not, because then if they get hung, instead of saying we are hung, they'll just say, we'll just annul it. And that's not the right thing to do either. But I really don't know where. Is it enough to keep it clean? Then I'm going to do a poll. I have a really. I think it's hard reading this one because the CP stuff, if they caught it, it could be a very, very big thing in the case. If they are able to put the toothpaste back in the horse, then it's all for nothing, and then he'll get his 30 years plus 6 months for contempt. Yes, we're done. They just came back and asked 2 questions and then sent it home. So, yes, I'm caught up. Yes, we're done. Nothing happens. Everything's done. No, I think it's really hard to. I think it's really hard to try. I'm always wrong when I try to guess what the jury will find. I think. I think they'll find him guilty on all counts, the harassment, everything. Which the harassment he should be. He admitted to all of it. And I don't think the judge will see it as a mitigating factor with the CP. I don't think so. Yeah, other people have told you, but he did obtain a 22, but he couldn't silence it enough. That's why he didn't use it. But the 31 is just too many for me to say. This is just. That's why I'm having a hard time. Again, I'm not a fan of PDF files. I'm strongly against PDF files. So, in my own little sick world, there's mitigating factors, but you also don't have the right to do it. And the way he did it, to me, is a problem with the 31 stipulations. It's too rage induced, but again, then he has this the story about his own adopted sister that for 4 years terrorized his house. But how would I have a hard time when you are unaliving on behalf of a friend, especially when you said, no, I don't want to have any money to do it, and there's no evidence brought in that he got any money. If it was his kid, it was his sister, it was his cousin. But this is a guy he knew for 2 years, thought he was a bit much, then got in contact with him a little bit again. No evidence of any relationship other than a semi-professional thing, and then you go on a vacation, hangs out with him for 3.5 weeks, and you decide when you get home that, yeah, she's so bad, I need to unalive someone. Yeah, I think I need to have a good sleep on that. It's hard to. Yeah, but again, it's not a first person. It's not. If it was my kids, trust me, I would absolutely never take the law into my own hands, and I would never ever make sure that they would suffer in a very, very long time. I would absolutely let the law take care of it, because that is the only thing to do in a law-abiding society. I absolutely wouldn't make it as long as painful as possible. Never. But that's the first step away from the victim. Here we're talking about a guy who met her while he was out busking, and they might have eaten some pizza together sometimes, and he's seen her on a video call and could just tell she was being abused. Nope. I just Googled it, and it came up. South Carolina, the daughter's name is Ada Mello. The state's name is Christine Pace. You can Google it. We can never, as a society, allow unaliving to be okay. It's just wrong, and we have to condone. And we don't have to condone it. Yes, but also we give the state the right to unalive people. So, if you're a proponent of the death penalty, that's kind of a little bit two-sided. We don't have the death penalty in Denmark. South Carolina do have the death penalty, but it hasn't been sought in this case. What did the guardian of the child testify to? The first guardian testified that she helped the mother get the kid back from Italy. And it was so wonderful. The kid had such a wonderful life. She ate sushi and avocado toast, and she made friends. and she was taped multiple times, and those pictures were sold to people who should also be like Bob Barker said, remember to spade and neuter your pets and your PDF files. No testimony so far put into this case about him. No, and that's why, but still, you have those small conundrums where you think, because the guy who did it in the airport, where it was his daughter, to me that's a very, very different thing. The guy in Russia who how much did he break both arms and legs while he broke his own back as well? Let's just say I cried dry tears for some victims. Yeah, I'm an asshole. I know it. Do I recommend you go out and do street justice? No, absolutely not. But some cases make me angry for months. I will always remember the testimony about what happened to Harmony Montgomery. And other victims, I'm sad to say, I will cry dry tears for them. I have a hard time feeling sorry, even though, yeah, it's a human being. Not in my eyes. I'm sorry. If you can do this to your own daughter, I'm hoping it's hot where you are right now, and you'll stay there for eternity. Yeah, at least 2 minors. I don't know. Yeah, the why, but again, then you get into it. Well, do some people really need some unaliving? Lawfully, no. Morally, that's a little more of a gray zone. But who am I to? I, of course, do not condone any unaliving on anyone because that's against the law. And I, just to make sure YouTube doesn't take it the wrong way, do not condone any violent acts because people get demonetized for that. What do you think the jury will find? 48% guilty, 42% hung, 9% not guilty. Sounds kind of like my reasoning. I think the 66 people, we needed 3 more, who voted in that poll is kind of the same place I am. You're a little bit of everything right now. I think it's one of those that you need to think about when you go to bed tonight. And can you get past the CP? Because it's not a part of the case. Can you get past it and be only judging by the law and by the evidence provided in the case? Because that's what you're supposed to do as a juror. It's a hard one. But what's not a hard one is we're going to pick it up again tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11 Eastern. Such a weird time in this case. Hopefully it'll run a lot smoother tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna go live earlier to try and just to fill some time, because 11, that's, I can make my dinner before we start then. So I don't know. I don't know. Go home, think about it. We'll try another after closing tomorrow. We'll try another one, see where we are landing. I don't know. I really can't decide for myself right now. I need to go in and then remind myself that as a juror, I have to look past. But he did mention CP a lot today. It's going to be a hard one. It's going to be a very, very hard one. But what's not hard is you should come back tomorrow. You should follow us on Discord and the Twitch sweat so you know when we're going live. Other than that, have a great day. See y'all. Love y'all. And remember, under the sea, under the sea.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have cared?
No,
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
no,
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
probably did. Everybody has.
So there-
Everybody has.